Yeah, both of my helpers today are very nervous and antsy, I think. So they just will not stay still.
So who do we have here?
So these are two male jungle nymph adults. And you tell me, actually, can you get a good look at his face? Because he has the goofiest face and head. They're pointy.
He does.
So these are the original pointy-headed academics.
Oh my God, amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna introduce.
I have one quick question for our ASL person. Are there any entomology words that we need to go slow on that don't have a sign? Okay, cool.
Just your normal rate of speaking is fine.
Yeah. She's such a pro. The speed with which she gets the science stuff.
I love that you're doing that. That's so awesome. Whoa, hey, buddy.
Credit.
You got wings.
Okay.
I have wings, but nope, I give up.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to Skype a Scientist Live today. Clearly, we're gonna have a rip-roaring good time because we have bugs already ready to go. Thank you for being with us today. Some stuff that you might want to know about happening in June, starting next week. We are partnering up with a queer professional society called Noble Step. They are joining up with us to do a bunch of cool events. So we've got 4 events every week, these Skype a Scientist Live sessions, and they'll all be members of the LGBTQIA+ community. On Thursdays, of course, we have our trivia nights for adults. And then on Wednesday, the 17th, we're doing a trivia night that's free to attend, but you need to be a member of the LGBTQIA+ community to go. It's really more about like community building among scientists and people who'd like to be scientists from that community. Next week, we've got lots of cool stuff happening. Let me review real quick what those are, what specific things we have going on. So Meet Me in Orbit is going to be on Monday. Wildlife Forensics will be Tuesday. Understanding How People Perceive Nature is going to be Wednesday. And then Friday, we're going to be doing paleontology, specifically with Triceratops, on Friday. And all of those will be happening at 1 p.m. Eastern. So that's stuff that you can be paying attention to next week. It's going to be a good couple weeks. You can support our program at patreon.com/SkypeAScientist or paypal.me/SkypeAScientist. A lot of our program is supported by small donors, and we really, really appreciate any help that you can give us to keep the program running strong. And that's enough housekeeping from me. Let's just get into some bugs. So, Gwen, do you want to introduce who you are, what you do, why you like it?
Sure. My helpers today are a little nervous and have been running around. So normally I just kind of sit them on my head because that helps me keep track of them. But so if you see me wandering off, I'm chasing a little friend. So I am Dr. Gwen Pearson. I work at Purdue University, and I have a pretty sweet job. I run our insect zoo here, so I get to play with bugs. And then I also run our outreach programs, so I get to play with kids. And my job is basically to convince everybody that they actually secretly like bugs and spiders. We have quite a few tarantulas and spiders.
Amazing. Okay. So what got you interested in studying bugs and working with bugs?
So I got started out more in zoology. So general animal behavior was my interest. And I realized when I was in college that using insects make it a lot easier to answer some of the basic behavior questions that I had. And even better, I could use animal behavior to try and solve some agricultural problems. So by observing the behavior of pest insects and figuring out how they find our crops or how they decide where to lay eggs, we can use that information to help farmers. And so for me, it was not enough to just say, you know, bad farmer, don't use pesticides. We have to provide an alternative. And
Right.
So my research was a way for me to contribute to trying to make things a little better. Because being a farmer is really hard work. It's really hard work.
For sure. Awesome. So our first question is from Jacob. He lives in Florida, and he would like to know, what do mosquitoes eat? I know only the females drink blood. Is that true?
As adults.
As adults.
As adults.
Okay.
Yeah, and so as immature animals, they are in water.
Okay.
And they're actually kind of interesting. When they're in water, they basically hang down. And they're called wrigglers because what you can see is they have a little tube on their behind, and that tube is their breathing tube. So basically they're breathing out of their behind. And when you disturb the water, they all go woo, and they disappear. So what they're usually eating is fungal spores, bacteria, a variety of other things as immature animals. And so and you're right, it is just the females that eat because they need a super nutritious meal to be able to lay eggs.
Awesome. Raphael would like to know why, well, actually Raphael's sister would like to know, why do spiders spin webs?
Why do spiders spin webs? There are all sorts of different kinds of cool spiders, and each one of them makes slightly different kinds of webs. But we know that in general, that's something that almost all spiders have done for a very long time. And so even our tarantulas, the webs that we mostly see here in the United States, are webs that are horizontal. So it's up and down and something flies into it. The webs that our tarantulas make are mostly horizontal, and that's related to what's thought to be sort of the ancestral characteristic. The earliest spider fossils that we have were of relatives of trapdoor spiders, and trapdoor spiders are so cool. They basically sew themselves with their silk a little hole in the ground, and then they sew themselves a little trap cover, and then they just wait for something to walk along and doop, grab it. And so it was over many millions of years, spiders changed a little bit from making a web that's on the ground and it's basically a detection system to one that's a more elaborate capture system.
Super cool.
And it's basically all done with little glands on their behind. Do you want me to grab a tarantula and show you the silk?
Let's do it. Yes, let's do it.
Okay, sure, hang on one second. So I've got a little cart on wheels, so I will just wheel us all around. And here, hang on one sec. The tricky part is getting your headphones on when you have a handful of spider.
You might want to put the mic down closer to your mouth, but perfect. Thank you.
Okay, yes. So here she is. And this is a Chilean rose hare. Let's see if I can get her up a little closer. So right now she's looking mostly straight at the camera, and you can see her she's like a unibrow where her eyes are. And on the back are these two little things here. Those are her spinnerets. And if she will cooperate, it's okay. Let me pull a little silk out. Yep, well, I'm getting a little silk, but it's so tiny, it's hard to see. So basically, those two, honestly, I call them butt fingers. They're basically modified legs, and that's what she uses to manipulate her silk with. So she will use those to pull the silk out, to stick it to each other, and then they'll also combine different kinds of silk. So they have the tarantulas don't have a lot of different kinds of silk, but some of our fancier orb weavers can make all sorts of different kinds of silk. Wow. Let's try one more time now that you've calmed down a little bit. Yeah, tiny bit. But the other thing that tells you is she's sitting on my hand right now. Her fangs are on my hand. She's not hurting me.
Right.
So most of what you see about spiders on the internet
is nonsense.
Spiders can bite, just like I can bite, but I'm not going to do it unless you're scaring me or making me unhappy. And it's the same way with spiders, because our teeth and their fangs, those are for food and they're for eating. Right. And so her venom is for prey. She's not going to waste it on defending herself. And there's been some really cool research, honestly, hilarious research, where they made fingers out of gelatin and poked spiders because they wanted to see, would the spider bite, and if she bit, would she inject venom? Nope. No, you really have to threaten the spider to get them to bite. So most of the time, leave them alone. They're going to be pretty chill.
Amazing. Yeah,
And
I didn't even know that tarantulas made silk. I just thought they were like walking around doing their own thing. But
they do. Here, let me grab a piece of her web.
Okay.
Boy, are you going to be mad when I put you back? I've messed up your house.
Oh.
So this mess is a tarantula web.
God.
And so what she does is just flat to the ground, and she sows all of the soil next to her little hidey hole, so that if a cricket or something else walks across it, she will sense that, and then she'll come out, grab her prey, and go right back in her hidey hole.
Oh my God, what a life. Feels like quarantine, honestly. Just
it's pretty sweet, honestly.
Great.
So this is a pretty typical spider pose, which is, I'm not sure what's going on, so I'm just going to they just hunker down the same way that we might if we were like, I don't really know what's going on. Yeah. The other thing I have to be really careful of, and I've been practicing this more, is I don't want to blow on her, because you can see how hairy she is.
Right.
And her eyes don't see very far at all. Her primary sense is air movement. And so between the silk that she has on the ground and air movement, that her hair, I'm like, if somebody blew on your hair, you feel that, and you're like, ugh. So if let's see if you'll, I don't know if you saw that little, because I don't want to freak her out too much. She's a good girl. So that, probably one of the things, if you watch videos on the internet, you've probably seen tarantula hawk wasp. One of the animals that will prey on something this size is there's a wasp that comes in, and that when that wasp comes in, its wings will push air, and she'll feel that and know to run back underground and hide.
Amazing. So cool.
She's adorable.
Very adorable.
Here, I will put her back, and you can refix your house, because I messed it all up. I'm very sorry.
So one question about spiders: do spiders ever eat their silk?
Some of them do, but not all of them do.
Okay, sounds good. One question that a lot of people are asking is, do you have a favorite bug?
Wow, it's really hard to choose. It's really hard to choose. So I think I have a favorite bug in our zoo. Okay, I have 2 or 3 favorite bugs in our zoo. And then I have my favorite bug in the world, because my favorite bug in the world is cicadas.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're kind of amazing. And a few people right now are going to get to see the 17-year cicadas, because they are having an emergence. And I just think that is like the most metal life ever. You spend 17 years underground supping sap, and then you come out screaming. I mean, that's pretty metal.
Approach to life. Sleep a bunch and scream when you're awake. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Adam Oakley would like to know, how far can a spider see?
Depends on the spider. Sorry to keep saying that, but there's thousands and thousands of different kinds of spiders. So the spiders with the best vision you can actually see in your house, jumping spiders. So there's a tiny, tiny little spiders in your house. Some of them, there's some super cool research that's been done on them. Some of them are small enough that their exoskeleton, their outer shell, is see-through, and we can actually see their eyes moving while they're tracking prey. And so they have very, very good vision, and they have the ability to use binocular vision the same way that we have 2 eyes and can kind of zero in on things.
Right.
So yeah, they have amazing vision. How far they can see, probably not that far, more than a couple feet, but what they do see is clearly they are really zeroing in on it.
Right. And yeah, and we know that those patterns are important for those like peacock spiders, the ones that are like pretty
which are basically jumping spiders. They're a special kind. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. So speaking of bugs that live in people's houses, or insects, or is there like a term that includes both insects and spiders, or are they like 2 separate from each other?
Yes. So insects and spiders and shellfish, so crabs, lobsters, those are all called arthropods. And that's the fancy name for jointed leg. So they're all animals, and especially if you've eaten a shrimp or a lobster, you know there's that hard outer shell that you have to crack and get rid of. Well, that's the same outer shell that you would have to crack if you wanted to eat a bug or if you wanted to eat a tarantula, which is the thing that people really do.
I saw a tweet yesterday where someone was like, do you think that mermaids eat cockroaches the way that we eat shrimp? That really got you thinking, you know? Maybe.
So there is an ant, Hormigas culones, and I don't think I can translate it because it has a rude word in it, but they have a big booty ant.
Yeah.
That's and so they are from, you can get them in Chiapas and upper South America. I would totally eat those like popcorn. They are delicious.
Ooh.
They are so good. If you roast them, it's like Chex Mix and you just can't stop. They're so good. They're delicious.
Okay. Sounds good. Speaking of animals that live in people's houses, why do stink bugs love to be inside people's houses?
Well, there's different kinds of stink bugs, and the one that I bet they're asking about is the brown marmorated stink bug.
Probably.
And the brown, speaking of food, brown marmorated stink bugs, to me anyway, smell like cilantro. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. So next time you catch one, take a sniff. And you can use them as a seasoning, but I don't think anybody's going to do that besides me. Fair enough. So those guys are actually an introduced species. And what they're looking for here in the United States is a nice place to spend the winter. And we already have several other insects that like coming in. I mean, why would you not want to spend the winter in your house, right? It's a lot warmer. There's there's food. And so normally in the best case situation, they'll go up in your attic, not bother you, or in your garage and not bother you. Mine seem to really like the kitchen lights. Because, you know, they're bugs, they're attracted to lights, and it's warm. I mean, that's the key thing, it's warm. They also, if your house is white, you probably can expect to have more stink bugs because, again, reflects more sunlight, it's brighter, they like that. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate aspect of their behavior. And now we're back to animal behavior, right? And so one of the things that other folks are working on is how we can maybe short circuit some of the ways that those stink bugs look for ways to hang out in your house, because it's not fun.
Yeah, great. We've got another question about spiders that two people asked, both Annabelle and Holly. Do spiders see in color?
Yes, but only some of them. So we've only tested some of them. So you mentioned the peacock spiders before, and that's a great example. We also don't know if they see the same colors that we do. Right. So we know, for example, that bees see a different spectrum than our eyes. And so some of the things that we see, they see, we can't see. Like we can't see polarized light. We can't see UV light. And so it's likely that for spiders, it's the same way, that they definitely see colors, but whether those colors are the same as ours, we don't really know yet.
Cool, sounds good. Fun fact, cephalopods can see polarized light too. Just, you know, the more you know.
Don't squid have amazing eyes?
Yes, for sure. But I'm gonna not talk about that because I can talk forever. And we have a whole cephalopod week coming up.
Okay.
4th week of June.
We'll hold it for them.
We'll hold off on our squid talk, even though it's my favorite thing to do. Okay.
Yes.
Next question from Amelia, age 6. Why do roly-polies roll up when we touch them?
Because they're scared. They're scared. And so here's a really weird factoid. Roly-polies, little pill bugs, those are crustaceans. So a roly-poly is more closely related to a lobster than it is to an insect.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at them, so, I mean, what they're doing is if you were a tiny, tiny animal and a great big kid, even a 6-year-old picked you up, you'd be pretty freaked out. And so because they have that hard shell, what they're doing is they're wrapping themselves in that shell. And so normally, because they're pretty tasty, I mean, they're shrimp relatives. So that's a way of protecting themselves from being eaten. But if you can get them to unroll and you look at their bellies, you'll see some little white spots. Those are their gills.
Oh my God.
So they breathe through gills, and that's why, when you think about it, where do you find roly-polies, right? Where it's wet.
Yeah.
where it's wet. So spots in your basement where it's wet, under rocks where it's wet. So under your doormat is a great place to find roly-polies because it stays wet under there. But
Cool.
that's because they have gills. They're a whole different kind of animal.
Wow, that's so cool. I knew there were crustaceans. I didn't know they had gills. That's amazing. Love it. So we've got a classroom of 7th graders from Morristown, New Jersey, which is quite close to where I am in Philadelphia. They're all studying arthropods right now.
Okay.
I want to know, why are insects so successful?
Well, that's a really big question. And I think there's a lot of answers to it. The truth is, pretty much anything in biology, the answer you're going to get from any scientist is, it's complicated.
Right.
And hopefully you'll back me up on that, because yeah. So
true. Yeah.
part of that is there's just so many different kinds.
Right.
So part of this, the hard thing to get around is, if you think about animals on land, there are more kinds of insects than any other kind of animal. And that means that they have definitely figured out what the formula is. And in part, the formula is partly being little. Because if you're little, think about all the places that you have to live and how little resources it takes to support that tiny body. They also specialize. So there are, like, you've probably heard of the monarch, right? The monarch eats milkweed. Milkweed protects itself with this really noxious compound. Well, they've cracked the code chemically and can eat that. So they're able to specialize. And there are a whole bunch of super cool, like, I know parasites are everybody's favorite. Yeah. Tons and tons of parasites that live on, so there's actually one kind of lice that lives on seals. And it's the only insect that can go into the deep ocean because it's under the seal fur and it's protected in there. Cool. So there's all of these tiny little places in between this. There are insects that live in between the layers of leaf, just between the cell layers. And you can go out and look at trees and you'll see like a little trail through a leaf. That's a tiny, tiny insect. Wow. So a lot of it is size.
Right. Size and just like trying a lot of different things and seeing what works.
And also they reproduce a lot, which means you get more opportunities for, right. And that specialization is a result of natural selection.
Awesome. Gavin would like to know, do you have any scorpions, and why do some scorpions have venom that kills and others don't?
Well, okay, I do have scorpions. They are not petting animals, so I'm not going to pick them up. But the general rule is the bigger the scorpion is, the less potent its venom is. And so, I know it seems backwards, doesn't it? So the ones in the United States that are most, give you like the most, I don't want to say dangerous venom, but definitely the most ouchy venom are centroides, and they're these little guys. They're little teeny things. And the one that I have is an Asian scorpion. I wonder if I can get her. Hang on a second. Let's see if we can get her up in front of the camera.
Okay, sounds good.
Mostly I just don't want to wander off while I'm still attached and have everything crash.
Yep, been there.
Go. Here, baby. Oh, let's see. Right. I don't know if you can see her very well.
Is she gray?
She is black.
Yes, I see her.
Okay, so yeah. And let's see if we can do this.
I love these little tanks you have. They're really nice.
We are slowly improving all the time. So the cool thing here now, I'm pretty sure you can see her.
Yeah.
So she glows.
Whoa.
So if you're ever at a rave, you can spot all the scorpions with your UV light.
That's very important. You don't want to step on a scorpion by accident at a rave.
It would be bad.
Really
Yeah. So that's one of the really cool things about scorpions. Adult scorpions, almost all of them will fluoresce like that under UV light. And the truth is, we don't know why. Like a lot. I mean, that's the thing. There's so many insects, the ones that we've studied, and there's so many arthropods, for that matter, especially for some of the really, I don't want to say off arachnids, but the less common arachnids. We just haven't studied them as much.
Right.
So it's thought that in part that reflectiveness is a way for the scorpion to detect when they're in sunlight.
Oh.
Because it's a series of chemical changes that causes that. And so this is an animal that also is breathing through a very small respiratory system, needs moisture. And so they need to stay out of the sun. You usually find them under rocks, hiding other places.
Yeah.
And so it's thought that that's part of that. It also, there's some question about whether it might be a way to find a mate, because if you're glowing and your mate is glowing, that helps you find each other in the desert. But that there's no evidence for that yet either. So we have a lot of theories, and we're just waiting for some of those 7th graders to come to college and figure it out.
Sounds good. Awesome.
And the venom question, there's really no tarantula that has venom that can just kill you with one sting.
That's great to know.
But there are definitely people who are sensitive to the venom. And so it's one of those things where it's also just where you get stung, what you're doing. So getting stung on your toe is very different than getting stung on your neck. Although honestly, if you've got scorpions stinging you on your neck, I think you have some other life choices to think about.
Right. Don't ask how that all came
So
about.
always, if you're in the Southwest, always check your shoes before you put them on.
Right. I was in Big Bend National Park down in Texas, and I had a black light with me, and at night I just was like shining it everywhere. I could not believe how many scorpions there were. They were everywhere. I mean, it was like exciting, and I loved, if I didn't have a black light with me, I don't know how I would have like walked anywhere, because without them they're impossible to see. Like if you just look with a regular light, I'm like, it just looks like sand. And then you put on the black light and you're like, oh my God. And then they're very easy to avoid. But anyway.
And that's I mean, that's a truism about the whole world around us, is that we are surrounded by little arachnids, little insects. We just don't notice them because they're little or hiding.
Hiding on purpose. Yeah, absolutely. So back to animal behavior. Can bugs be trained?
Yes, actually. And bumblebees apparently seem to be some of the smartest insects. So they've actually trained bumblebees to do a whole series of tricks. They had to push a little ball and pull a string in order to get a reward. So yeah, they're pretty sharp. They're pretty sharp.
That's very cool. Let's see. So what other animals do you have in your room right now? Are there any that you're like, I gotta show off this?
I have many. So we started out with these guys. Let's see. Here we go. Hey there, buddy. And so these are jungle nymphs. They are from Malaysia. Cool. Will you show them your pretty wings? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see. Show them your wings. Hello. Here we go.
Whoa, pretty.
Aren't they gorgeous?
Yeah.
So these guys, it's easy to see him on my hand, but if he was on a tree trunk, you would never see him.
Right.
You would never see him, even no matter how big he is. And I love that they have these super long antennae. Whoop, 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 whoop. So the other thing that they will do is play dead. And there's one here that's actually been dead on my keyboard for a minute or two. So they're perfectly fine. But if you were a stick and you fell out of a tree, what would you do? Lay flat on the ground, right? And so basically, anytime you pick them up and turn them over, they just immediately, oh, I'm dead. I'm a stick. I'm totally not a delicious insect.
Right.
I'm a stick. So let me put these boys back and I'll grab out another one.
Okay.
Let's see. Hang on, guys. Here you go. We'll roll over here.
This room is a dream.
It is a lot of fun, although I have moved things around just to make it easier to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
So the one we're going to look at now, and I will show you the picture because it's easier, are leaf insects. And these guys, I admit, I'm really kind of in love with.
Yeah. Because
they're just so neat. So here, I'm going to take you on your whole leaf. So this is a female.
Oh my God.
And you can see
the job of being a leaf.
She is so good at being a leaf. Here, I'll put her a little closer. So you can see she also has kind of a goofy face.
Amazing.
Yeah, she is amazing. So this cage that's behind me, I don't know if you can see it, there's it just looks like a bunch of leaves. There's probably about 30 insects in there.
Whoa.
And so this is a great example. So these guys are from the Philippines. And this is a good example of one of the species that we have that is under permission from the Department of Agriculture. So like a lot of other zoos, we have exotic species.
Right.
Our exotic species are just a little smaller.
Right.
But like those exotic species, we want them to stay in the zoo and not get out. And so we have a really elaborate procedure, because in this case, a lot of the animals that we have these guys, not so much, but some of the other ones, definitely there's a potential for being an agricultural pest. I mean, they're leaf eaters. And they're also they're kind of high maintenance, so I don't think they make that on their own. But some of our other ones are pretty robust.
Cool.
And so whenever we change the leaves, that's a 3-person job, because you can't see them.
It's hard.
And the other thing that they'll do, I don't know if you can see this, they eat these beautiful, perfectly round holes in the leaf.
Oh.
And then they will stand so that their butt sticks out and covers the hole, so it looks like that. So they'll eat the end of the leaf and then stand there, and their butt fills in the space, and it looks exactly like a leaf.
It's clever. It's very clever.
It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Oh, she's starting to pay attention. She's like, wait a minute, something's going on.
Something weird's happening.
So yeah, we have to check and recheck, and then we keep the used leaves for another day, because we always miss one, always. They're just so hard to see.
Right.
Go back. Back you go. Okay.
So here's a question. Like, you've got a lot of very cool insects in that room. Are there any insects that you could recommend as a pet, or are insects generally like, just leave them outside?
Well, the things that we have here, most of them are not legal to have. So like our stick insects, those are not legal to keep as a private individual. We went through, it's basically a 6-month inspection process with both the state of Indiana and the Department of Agriculture, or the National Department of Agriculture, in order to get permission. And then we have a special permit for special species, and that's reviewed every year, and it's a hassle. But if you want to keep bugs, a great one to keep is a mantis, and you can find a mantis egg case in your own yard.
Wow.
You can catch all sorts of caterpillars. One of the really fun things to do is grow some parsley.
Oh.
And every time I grow parsley, I get swallowtail caterpillars. Awesome. They love parsley. And they're really cool because they're black and white striped. They're really distinctive. So growing parsley and then catching the caterpillar, and then you can see it go through the whole life cycle. It'll pupate, the moth will, the butterfly will come out. It's really cool. It's super cool.
Yeah, my buddy grows milkweed and can attract monarchs that way, which is so awesome. Cool. Let's see. Someone just said, I'm starting to like bugs more now, which...
Yay! Here, I'll get out another weird one while we talk.
Let's do it.
What's the next question?
Let's see. Do bugs ever sleep?
That's a great question. Let's see. She's still a little small, but she'll do. Come here, baby. Okay, so this is another stick insect.
Whoa.
And
so angular.
She is, you can see how, let's see if I can get her better. So to answer the sleep question, insects sleep, but kind of not the way that we do. Here we go.
Whoa.
So, and you'll also see she's got her tail curled up.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of people think about scorpions, but it's actually just that her booty is so big, she has to curl it up like a backpack to carry it around. It's really long.
When would she want to have it all rolled out?
Sorry?
When would she want to have it all rolled out? Like, what's a good time?
When she gets full of eggs.
Oh.
And so then they still roll it up like that. Because it's, I mean, if it does make much more sense to have it over your legs where you can carry it around easily.
Totally.
But yeah, that's where, so this one is still, she has one more shed before she becomes an adult female.
Whoa.
And actually, I don't know if you can see her doing her little dance. Yeah. Yeah, so she's pretending to be a dead leaf, and when I blow on her, what would a dead leaf do in the wind?
Blowing in the wind, nothing to see.
Right.
Oh
right. Right, and so these guys also have very silly faces.
Love them. That's amazing. So you have a lot of bugs from a lot of different places in this.
This one is from Australia.
Australia? Oh, cool. Okay. So how did you get all of these insects? Did you have to go collect them, or is there like a trade happening among zoos? Like, what's the deal?
So for most of us, anybody who has, so we work with the Federal Department of Fish and Wildlife, because sometimes these animals are brought in from outside the United States. And so that's Fish and Wildlife. And then we also work with the Department of Agriculture because they're concerned about, could this thing be a pest? Right. And so we work with those two. We also, with Fish and Wildlife, we accept smuggled animals. So quite a few of the animals that I have are ones that were intercepted at the border being smuggled. And so I have a whole variety of Brazilian species, and those were captured, and then they are actually evidence in a case. And so, but the smart, it's kind of a win-win, because what they'll do is Fish and Wildlife will release them to our custody. We use them in education, and talk to people about how you really want captive bred animals. Let's not steal them from the wild. Totally. So we have a whole series of baby tarantulas that came to us that way. And eventually they will grow up and be educational animals.
Awesome. So is generally the law that you can't have an insect that's not from where you live, or?
From the United States, and then each individual state has, so Florida and California have so many invasive species that they have very restrictive laws. Okay. And so those two states especially, and Hawaii also, Hawaii has really suffered. But basically, if it's an American animal, go for it. Cool. If not,
don't do it.
Yeah, and the biggest issue is wild caught. So I'm going to put you down on my keyboard again, because that way I can gesture and I don't have to worry about, there you go.
Oh. Yeah.
There you go. So what was I saying?
Talking about invasive species in Hawaii.
Invasive, yes. Nope, gone.
Cool. Sounds good. Let's see. There are still so many. Okay, can you
wild caught. I was talking about wild caught. So we do have some species that we are pretty sure that collection from the wild is one of the reasons why they have reached endangered status. And so especially, you might have heard of the Goody sapphire tarantula. They are amazing. If you Google that, you will see a neon blue tarantula that is gorgeous.
Where do they live?
So they're from India.
Oh, wow.
They're from some of the more remote. There's a whole group of basically like jewel tarantulas. They're amazing, from this particular region. And yeah, they will sell for several $100s a piece. Right. And it's believed that, in addition to obviously animals everywhere are losing habitat, but on top of that, people are stealing them because there's a lot of money to be made. Right. There's a lot of money to be made. Right. So, in this room, it's not a very big room, but I think we easily have $15,000 worth of animals.
Wow.
Easily to replace them.
Right.
Fortunately, some of them make more really easily.
Yes.
So yeah, the stick insects, honestly, about half of their eggs we freeze, because otherwise we would be up to our ears in stick insects. So she's got her behind out now, so you can see how long it is.
Very cool. So are there ever cases where zoos like yours are helping to replenish wild populations because they're endangered in the wild and you're producing too many for your own purposes?
Well, most zoos right now are more involved in conservation than anything else. Yeah. So when we actually had a Goody sapphire, and he was on, so if anybody's ever done dairy, you know that in dairy you have these really elaborate stud lists because you don't want inbreeding in your cows, and you also want to breed for the best characteristics. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a tarantula stud book. Because if we're breeding for conservation, we need to know this thing isn't related to that thing, and we want to keep the most genetic diversity that we can. Right. And so our Goody sapphire went off on a tour of zoos and visited some new lady friends, and did pretty well until they got to Houston, and then because they're spiders. These things happen.
That's right. Spiders sometimes. If they don't like it, they don't like it, right? That's not great.
Yep, that happens. Yeah, hey, I mean, if you're going to go, that's the way to go. Interstate reproduction tour.
Oh, with Sapphire, that's wonderful. So I can't believe this. We've been talking about bugs for 40 minutes. We try to keep these to 45 minutes. Before we wrap up, I want to give you the opportunity to show us anything else that you'd like to before we ask the final 2 questions, and then wrap up.
I'll show you my giant roaches.
Great, let's do it.
So these guys are super cool. And let's see here. Come on out, babies. Where'd you go? Come on. They are not cooperating. Come on.
I have roaches in my house to feed my one of my lizards.
Here we go. Come here.
Roaches.
There you go. Oh. They're a little camera shy. Come here, guys. Oh, all right, we'll go with you. So this, here we go. Let's see. So I'll hold her like this so you can see her feet. Can you see how?
Oh, wow. They look like
spiky?
gecko feet.
Yeah, so these are the same kind of feet that a mole has. These are burrowing roaches from Australia. They are not full grown, but you can see she's pretty big.
Large, yeah.
Yeah, they get a lot bigger. But they're just so cool because of those little feet. Also, you can see her little pedipalps, which I call face fingers. That is not the correct name, but it's a pretty good description because most insects and spiders, their mouth faces downwards. And so what you'll see in both spiders and insects is they have these little helper. They're basically modified legs that stuff all the food back in your mouth after it falls out because you're facing downwards. Oh, you're being a very good girl now. You settle down.
Oh, she's a ham. Oh, we love her. Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, and she's so smooth. She feels like the smoothest plastic you've ever felt.
Wow.
It's that amazing shell.
Oh, cool. So while you're holding her, I'm going to ask you the same final questions that we ask everybody.
Okay.
Wrap-up sessions. The one is, what is something that you wish everybody in the world knew about your area of expertise, that falls within your area of expertise? And then the second question is, what is something that you wish everybody in the world knew about literally anything? It can be as small and silly or big and significant as you'd like.
Okay. So I would say the thing I wish everybody knew is that the vast, like 0.99999999999999999, the vast majority of insects and spiders are completely harmless. Completely harmless. Mm-hmm. And if you ignore them, they will ignore you. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of spiders in their house, and to a spider, honestly, I think we're just a really noisy tree. If you think about our comparative sizes, yeah, they're not coming after us. No. So they're harmless. They really are. And obviously there are some that we should be careful around, but that's it. If you think about how many there are, that's just such a tiny percent.
Great.
The other thing I would say is just, you guys saw how sweet my tarantula was? Mm-hmm. Spiders are gentle. Spiders are very gentle. And actually, this is a random factoid. One of the reasons why most spiders are slow is the crazy way their body works. So we have biceps and triceps to do this. They have one set of muscles only. So they extend their legs with blood pressure. And so they have little pumps at the base of each leg. Uh-huh. And they pump blood into the leg to extend it. And that's why when a spider dies, because they lose their blood pressure. Right. That's also why it's so hard for a spider to run. Yeah. Because all of those little tiny leg hearts are like pumping away, trying to make the legs go. And so they're total sprinters. And if you think, I hear people say a spider is running at me and I'm like, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. So we have a lot of unanswered questions today because we had so many questions about insects. So where can we find you? Where can we find you online?
Twitter. I am on Twitter, and it's bug_Gwen.
Great.
And I also work at Purdue. So if you want someone to come and visit your classroom and you're in Indiana, we have Bugs Will Travel.
Oh, wonderful. That'll be really great for when we're actually allowed to leave our houses again. That'll be pretty good. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your bugs and your knowledge with us today. This was like, I personally love bugs so much. Like, as I have left graduate school, I have time to think about more things than squid, and I love squid, but my God, insects are everywhere and so accessible to everyone, and I just love them for that. So thank you for sharing this with us. This was really great. Erin, thank you for signing with us. That we really appreciate you being here. And everybody else, if you can support our program, please do so at patreon.com/SkypeAScientist or paypal.me/SkypeAScientist. We are a nonprofit, a 501c3. So all of that donation can be tax deductible for your tax season. If you're under 18, you probably don't care about that, but some people do. And so we really thank you for being here with us today. Tell a friend about our program. We've got awesome stuff coming up in June. So get pumped. We will see you all next week. All right. Bye.
Bye. Wave goodbye. Sorta.